Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. Nascar, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Well, we are without producer John this weekend, but don't worry, Matt and I are in studio this week. Boy, we got plenty from silly season. It just seems to be ramping up so far in advance of the actual end of the year. So we got news from Formula One, we got news from NASCAR, we got news from Formula E. You know, we're in the Olympic season, the opening ceremonies in Paris just last night, break for IndyCar, NASCAR. So what to do? Well, you might sit there and wonder why we don't have auto racing in the Olympics. I actually have the answer for that. We're going to get into that coming up here soon. Questions galore about officiating from last weekend. Ooh, yeah. It's going to be a long conversation there. And that's really just the tip of the iceberg. We got lots to get to, and we are certainly going to rock into it. Myself, Matt Nicholson, going to get things rolling under green and up to speed right after this.
Stay right here. Racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Well, as noted, opening ceremonies for the 2024 Paris Olympics actually happened last night, and that means we're officially in break time for NASCAR and IndyCar because, well, NBC. That means last weekend was jam-packed. Let's get into it.
Twas.
Head to London. Look back on race one of a doubleheader weekend for Formula E and their final race weekend of the 2024 season. Realistically, three-way race for the title heading into the weekend. After Saturday, while the picture wasn't completely developed, kids, ask your grandparents, it did become a lot clearer. Pascal Wehrlein was able to get his Tag Heuer Porsche out front, claimed his third win of the year. He was able to hold on from lap 22 to the end. Mitch Evans had to settle for second. Sebastian Buemi, Nick De Vries, Eduardo Mortara, Nico Muller, Nick Cassidy, Sam Bird, Stoffel Van Dorn, Norman Nato filling out the top 10. We'll talk points after the Sunday recap because, well, that's the more important one of the two anyway. Biggest knock on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for NASCAR? Back when they used to run there, you remember? Yeah, the Brickyard. Is that races could be boring. And there was a time. I mean, you'd get to the point where you were out front, and sometimes you'd be 7-8 seconds out in front, and everybody else was strung out and nobody could pass.
Yeah, you reach up and hit the cruise control button and just go.
Not the case this past weekend. We'll start with the Xfinity Series, where as the 3 leaders were coming to the white flag, Riley Earpst got by his Stewart-Haas Racing teammate Cole Custer, but Eric Almirola, driving for Joe Gibbs Racing, was able to get around both as they headed into turn 1 on the white flag lap. But Earpst didn't give up, chased Almirola all the way down the backstretch, got under him in turn 3, got past him, and rolls on to the win. Cole Custer saw the same opportunity that Almirola had seen come into the white flag, and he was able to get around Almirola as they came to the yard of bricks. So he gets second, relegates Almirola to third. So you actually have back-to-back SHR wins in their final year as an organization. Locks both Custer and Earpst into the playoffs. Final top 10, Earpst, Custer, Almirola. Shane Van Gisbergen. Nice run on the oval there.
That one was a surprise.
Sheldon Creed, Austin Hill, Daniel Dye, A.J. Allmendinger, Justin Allgaier, and Carson Quapple, who was driving the number 88 at Junior Motorsports. He filled out the top 10. SVG, your 1 seed, he's got 3 wins on the year, all of them road courses. But again, he might actually be starting to get the hang of some of the ovals anyway. But Indianapolis can run like a road course, so it does make sense. 2 wins each for Austin Hill, Chandler Smith, Sam Mayer. A win each for Cole Custer, Justin Allgaier, Riley Earpst, and Jesse Love. So there you are in seed order. That leaves only 4 spots left on points. They belong to A.J. Allmendinger at this time, along with Sheldon Creed, Parker Kligerman, and Ryan Sieg. Now, Ryan Sieg, courtesy of stage points, jumps over Sammy Smith. Smith not having a good day. That's a slim point lead over him, over Sammy Smith for that final playoff position, so nowhere near comfortable.
Nope.
Sunday morning began a very busy day in the racing world. F1 in Hungary. We had a first-time winner, too. McLaren driver Oscar Piastri started the race on the front row alongside pole-sitting teammate Lando Norris. Was able to get around his teammate to get his first ever win in F1 action, becoming the first winning driver that was born in the 21st century. So if you're wanting to feel old, welcome to it. There's more, by the way, to that story about how Piastri was able to get by Norris, and we'll get back to that.
Yeah.
It was a team order situation that got under the collar of Norris, but Piastri was able to cleanly pass Norris, got the lead shortly after the start of the race. When the race began, pit stops, McLaren called in Norris first, and when they then called Piastri in, it somehow allowed Norris to inherit the lead. I don't know whether they had a mistake or what was going on, but maybe it was just that much of a difference in the tires allowing him to be that much faster. I don't know which.
Yeah.
But either way, Norris got repeatedly asked by McLaren team officials to give the lead back to Piastri, but resisted doing so until there were 2 laps left in the race. Left Piastri to say after, quote, "This is a very, very special situation. This is really the day I dreamed of as a kid, standing on top of an F1 podium." Not sure that's the way he envisioned it quite, but it worked. Piastri first, Norris second, Lewis Hamilton jumps up, claims third, Charles Leclerc fourth, Max Verstappen relegated to fifth. Carlos Sainz, Sergio Perez, George Russell, Yuki Tsunoda, and Lance Stroll fill in the top 10. Verstappen still your points leader over Norris, who delayed giving up a spot due to being second in the standings. He now trails Verstappen 265 to 189. Charles Leclerc's third, 162. Carlos Sainz fourth, 154, 149 for Oscar Piastri, who jumps into that top 5. Lewis Hamilton's up to 125. Sergio Perez has 124 and fading. George Russell, 116, and rounding out the top 10, Fernando Alonso with 45 and 24 for Lance Stroll, the final driver in the top 10. Red Bull continues to lead the Constructors' Cup standings, but this is closed in. McLaren has jumped up. It's 389 to 338, Red Bull over McLaren, then 322 for Ferrari. Okay, then. Mercedes sitting in fourth, pretty much all by themselves, 241. Aston Martin's fifth with 69. VCarb's got 33, got Haas F1 breathing down their neck with 27. But they were shut out for the first time in a few races. Alpine's sitting at 9, 4 for Williams, and then there's Sauber, still with 0. And I'm not really certain that that's going to change before the end of the year unless a whole lot of surprises happen.
Very doubtful.
From Hungary back to London, Formula E's final race of the year. Knowing who his closest competitors were, Pascal Wehrlein going into Sunday's race, knowing what he needed to do to claim the 2024 title, and he more than accomplished that. when he claimed second on lap number 34 of 37. Oliver Rowland was able to jump up, got the win in the race. Wehrlein second. His closest competitor, Wehrlein, in the championship, Mitch Evans, finishing third. And let's face it, you got to beat the guy if you're hoping to get more points than the guy and win the title. And Mitch Evans wasn't able to do that. Sebastian Buemi, then Antonio Felix da Costa, Jean-Eric Verne, Nico Muller, Robin Freins, Stoffel Van Dorn, we'll talk about him again in a bit, Lucas de Grassi, they all make up the top 10. Your final 10 in points, your champion, Pascal Wehrlein, racked up 192. Mitch Evans, 182. Nick Cassidy, 176. Oliver Rowland, 156. 139 for Jean-Eric Verne. Antonio Felix da Costa finishes fourth, 134. 122 for Jake Dennis. Max Gunther, 73. 66 for Robin Freins. Stoffel Van Dorn finishes 10th in the final 2024 standings with 61 points. Jaguar claims the 2024 team title with 368 points to Tag Heuer Porsche's 332. Then you get DS Penske with 200. Nissan, 182. Andretti's in there, 169. Didn't they win the title last year? Team title? I thought they did.
I think so, yeah.
Envision 121 and 101 for McLaren. Maserati's second year back in single-seater racing saw them rack up 81 points. Not good. 56 for ABT Cupra, Mahindra 47, and ERT sitting in the basement with 23. Jaguar, by the way, also won the manufacturer's title, racking up 455 total points to Porsche's 451. Nissan 273, Stellantis 263, Mahindra with 95, and ERT once again in the basement, considering that they don't give their power units to anybody else. And we're kind of figuring out why. 23. IndyCar went street racing in Toronto, downtown, when all was said and done after a massive wreck, which we'll get into. The driver that claimed the pole won the race. Colton Herta winning a second straight Toronto pole and one that ended a 40-race winless streak as well. His teammate Kyle Kirkwood claimed second. First 1-2 finish for Andretti Global since the Long Beach Grand Prix last year when Kirkwood won it. He was trailed by then teammate Romain Grosjean. Romain Grosjean now driving for Uncos Halogen Racing. Also marked the first win officially as Andretti Global. Remember, they changed their name officially during the off-season, rebranding to that name before the 2024 season got underway. So, yeah, their first name is Andretti Global in IndyCar. Trailing the Andretti twins, Scott Dixon third, Alex Palou fourth, Marcus Armstrong fifth, then David Malukas, Christian Lundgaard, Rinus VeeKay. There's that Romain Grosjean guy again. And Graham Rahal rounds out the top 10. So your points as they head into their break, Alex Palou leads 411 to 362 over Will Power. Starting to see a little separation here.
A little bit.
Scott Dixon, 358, 354 for Colton Herta. Pato O'Ward, 340. 328 for Scott McLaughlin. Kyle Kirkwood has jumped in to 314. Joseph Newgarden fading quickly, 266, and pretty much standing still. Alexander Rossi's got 265, and Santino Ferrucci sits 10th with 231. A couple of the other points rundowns in IndyCar to keep you updated on in the chase for Rookie of the Year. Linus Lundqvist starting to pull away a bit, now up a 173 to 133. Then you got 109 for Christian Rasmussen. Teo Pourchaire filling in for Alexander Rossi in Toronto. Gained more points. He's now up to 93. Nolan Siegel holding 88. The engine manufacturer standings a bit closer too. Chevrolet still leads over Honda. It's now 954 to 941. NASCAR. Cup Series specifically. Yeah, NASCAR had some splaining to do, to borrow the old I Love Lucy bit of looking at things, or way of looking at things. Teams started to gamble on fuel. And I get this. This is, once again, now a crown jewel race. You think about some of the races that drivers in the Cup Series really want to win. They want to win a Daytona 500. There's no doubt about it. There's a reason they call it the Super Bowl of stock car racing. They want to win a Southern 500. They want to win a Coca-Cola 600. They want to win the longest race of the year. Okay? And then there's just something about it. Whether or not you like Indianapolis and NASCAR being on it or not, it's not the point. Every racer who has ever dreamed about getting into a race car at one point in time or another has thought, wouldn't it be cool to win at the Brickyard? Because it's that iconic of a facility.
For sure.
So when Brad Keselowski came in on lap 103 and fueled up, and you realize that as a general rule, you can get about 40 laps on a tank of fuel if you're going 100%, you might need to pit again. But they kept not pitting that 6 car. and they kept not pitting the 12 car. And so many other drivers just said, you know what? Yeah, we're going to do that gamble as well, right? Keselowski coming to the final green in overtime as the pace car is diving off the track to allow them to go take the green. Brad Keselowski follows the pit car onto pit road, realizing he didn't have the gas to do it. Now, that should have left Ryan Blaney as the control car, right? Kyle Larson moves up from the inside of row 2 and, according to Ryan Blaney, jumped the restart, which left Blaney blasting NASCAR over the team radio. Now, we're going to get back to all of this during the news, okay? That's problem 1, though. Problem 2 is when Ryan Preece crashed on the backstretch. As they were going around turn number 2, Ryan Preece and Chase Elliott running right around 10th place, give or take, got into each other. 41 car spins, crashes. Preece tried to get the 41 moving again, couldn't. NASCAR waited, however, and watched his situation as the field goes around turns 3, turn 4, down the front stretch, hits the start-finish line, takes the white flag, and then what happens? NASCAR throws the caution, and as we all know, when you show the white flag, the very next flag ends the race. A lot of people were ticked off about that as well, and we'll get to that too. Your winner's Kyle Larson. Larson beats Tyler Reddick to the checkers. Ryan Blaney 3rd. Christopher Bell 4th. Bubba Wallace with a good run in 5th. Todd Gilliland there in 6th. A good run for the Front Row Motorsports youngster. Austin Cindric, Daniel Suarez, Noah Gragson, Chase Elliott round out your top 10. This means no new winners. Kyle Larson now sitting all alone by himself as the 1 seed. 4 wins. 3 wins for Denny Hamlin. William Byron, Christopher Bell. Then you got Ryan Blaney with 2 wins. Those in with a win each. Begins with Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, Brad Keselowski, Alex Bowman, Joey Logano, Daniel Suarez, and Austin Cindric. Those that are in on points. Martin Truex Jr. leads the way. He seems pretty comfortable there. But if things go south, who knows? Mm-hmm. Ty Gibbs, Chris Buescher, Ross Chastain. Now, Ross Chastain and Bubba Wallace are in a tight battle for that final playoff spot. Only 7 points separate the two. And Chase Briscoe, he faded a bit back, but he trails by 83 points. When we come back, there's, 4 races left before we get to the playoffs?
Yes.
So you're saying there's a chance. We'll find out, because we still got a ways to go before this is all said and done. And that brings us to the last event of last weekend out near Seattle as the NHRA Northwest Nationals got into the finals. Top Fuel came down to a battle between Sean Langdon and Steve Torrence. Torrence a touch quicker off the light, then both drivers started to lose traction. Torrence is able to feather the throttle enough to claim the win. 3.963 ET at 279.79 miles per hour. That is one of the slower winning times and speeds we've heard in a while. That does mark Steve Torrence's, get this, first win of 2024.
Wow.
55th of his career, though. Austin Prock came in, took on Paul Lee in the funny car finals. Lee, much quicker reaction time, but then he smokes up his tires and shuts it down. That allows Prock's clean run to claim the win. 3.875 ET, 334.57 miles per hour. Marks Prock's 4th win of the year, 8th win of his career, and becomes the 4th driver to claim wins in both Top Fuel and Funny Car in their career. Pro Stock Car comes down to a duel between Jed Coughlin Jr. and Dallas Glenn. Coughlin with a near perfect reaction time rolls to the win, 6.536 ET, 209.95 miles per hour. Marks win number 3 of 2024, 68th win of his career to date, and he doesn't look like he's stopping anytime too soon. And in Pro Stock Motorcycle, Gage Herrera, shocking, taking on Chase Van Zandt. Van Zandt jumps up, claims the better reaction time, and actually did not trail the entire run. Stops Herrera's winning streak at an NHRA top-level record, 11 event wins in a row. Chase Van Zandt claims his first head-to-head win against Herrera as well, 6.720 ET, 201.31 miles per hour. It's his first ever Mission Foods Drag Racing Series win of his career. Congratulations to Chase Van Zandt. Top Fuel points rundown. Your top 5 reads as follows. Doug Coletta leading Sean Langdon by 120, 159 back Steve Torrence. Justin Ashley trails by 170, and Antron Brown is 5th, 233 back. Austin Prock sits in control of Funny Car. He's up 256 over Bob Tasca III. Matt Hagan's 256 back. That's last year's champion. J.R. Todd 278 behind, and 351 out is the sidelined John Force. Dallas Glenn leads Pro Stock Car by 138 over Greg Anderson. Erica Enders 3rd, 151 behind. 229 down is Aaron Stanfield. Then Jed Coughlin Jr. He jumps up to fifth, 236 back. Pro Stock Motorcycle, despite the fact that he didn't get the win, what would have been his 12th in a row, Gage Herrera pretty much has a lock on the lead, 298 points up on second place Matt Smith. Richard Gadsden in third, 345 down. Chase Van Zandt, 375 down, and 389 out is John Hall. So after such a busy weekend, what to expect this weekend? Well, not so much. NASCAR and IndyCar, as we noted, NBC has their rights at this point in time in the season, and NBC also covers the Olympics, so they set up this deal a while back, and NBC and has cut that deal. NASCAR, IndyCar are on a 2-week break. So that brings us to Formula One. They're going to get the limited slate of action rolling amongst the series we cover. The Rolex Belgian Grand Prix at Spa-Francorchamps, 19 turns, 4.35 miles long. It's a nice long course. I love this facility, truth be told. I enjoy watching the racing there, and truth be told, I love to play it on Gran Turismo. ESPN is going to have the coverage starting 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time. NHRA continuing the West Coast swing. Denso Sonoma Nationals will air on Fox on a slightly delayed basis, 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central Time. You noted they must have put lights up at Sonoma because they were qualifying last night in the dark.
They were. So, a chance.
Yeah, we'll see. Speaking of qualifying, also starting in about 35 minutes from now, Formula One's going to start qualifying for that race that we just mentioned, Spa. We'll keep you updated on that as it gets underway. First things first, as we have been doing, we want to keep you updated on the John Force situation. What's the latest on John Force? And there has been an update, so we'll lead off with that. That will be coming up. And then we'll put class in session. You may wonder why the Olympics does not include auto racing. Maybe not. But either way, we're going to educate you because that's what we do. As Chi-Town Mark would like to say, class will be in session next.
We will be right back. Racing Network.
Welcome in. Producer John not with us this weekend. Matt and I in studio. And as we have been doing really ever since a month ago now, when he got into that massive wreck, which caused what they call a TBI, traumatic brain injury at Virginia Motorsports Park, we've been keeping you updated on the situation regarding John Force. Force was discharged from the Barrow Neurological Institute in Arizona on Tuesday. That's where they flew him from Virginia. Really good news there. He returns to his home in Southern California. He will continue his rehab as an outpatient. If you're watching on CRN Live, you can see the statement officially from the Force family. Barrow was where Force again got transferred on July 9th after having left Virginia Commonwealth University's Medical Center. One of his daughters, Ashley, said this, quote, "He finally gets to sleep in his own bed." According to the Force family, the next step for John is to continue, again, as an outpatient in occupational and physical therapy as they continue to work with him on his short-term memory and cognitive issues, all, again, the result of that crash that happened June 23rd, Virginia Motorsports Park. And again, if you missed out on it and you haven't heard the news, he was in round one of the Funny Car Finals bracket, and when he won that particular heat, unfortunately, as he hit the start-finish line, the engine exploded, and I mean exploded. Big fireball explosion, which did a couple of things, which I think you said cut the line, which triggered the parachute.
It didn't cut the line. The compression and the explosion of the engine caused to where the Leahy system, it's called the Leahy system, to where when you throw the lever forward, it depresses an air compression bottle, which releases the parachute.
Right.
Well, what the compression done is the mechanism and the plate that it sits on. What it did is the compression caused the front of the plate to go up, causing the middle to collapse, therefore shortening the distance of where the levers through the air compression bottle to release the chutes. The levers worked. Everything acted as normal, but that distance being cut down caused the chutes to not deploy from the air compression bottle.
So as the engine explodes and John Force can't see or really do anything, he loses control of the car, slams the right side retaining wall, the closest one, at better than 300 miles per hour. That shoots him across the track, slams him into the other retaining wall at probably about 300 miles an hour. True.
Roughly.
And all of that caused a traumatic brain injury, and that is the situation that he is in. So we continue to hope and pray for the best for him and hope for a quick recovery. And who knows, maybe he can get back to racing. But at this point in time, I know that's not his first priority.
Sure.
Nor is it the family's.
Absolutely.
By the way, rumors began to circulate after he had gotten released from the rehab center and was allowed to become an outpatient that he was retiring. Folks, stop. Just stop trying to think that you're somehow making news. You're making a fool of yourself.
Turn your computers off, shut your keyboards down, and put your phones down.
Yeah.
Let it go.
Yeah, let it go. Well, let's wait until John Force actually says, okay? One other bit of NHRA news here. Jeff Deal Racing has announced a new partnership with SpeedTech Motorsports. This is an up-and-coming speed shop. It's a new 2-year deal. It'll officially launch this weekend at Sonoma. SpeedTech, like Deal Racing, based out of California. As a matter of fact, the two shops are about 25 to 30 miles away from each other. Mm-hmm. The partnership will allow Jeff Deal Racing and SpeedTech to expand and become a 2-car funny car operation starting next year. We'll hopefully find out more information on drivers and such fairly soon. I hear this every once in a while. And truth be told, the first time I really heard that there were people curious about it was way back in 1996 when the Olympics were happening about a little more than 100 miles to the east of where we sit right now in Atlanta.
Right. Yep.
And about every 4 years since, it seems to come up again. So we're going to tackle it, not necessarily once and for all, because there's an opening. But the modern Olympics, why there's not auto racing. Because otherwise you'd be sitting there wondering, hey, wait a minute, you're talking about the Olympics. There's no auto racing in it. Why are we talking about it on a racing show? Now you know why. The modern Olympics, again, began 1896, Athens, Greece. A lot of sports have been tried over the years, some of them exhibition-wise. Some have been there almost the whole time. A lot of the track and field events, for example. The International Olympic Committee set the ground rules as to what sports will be considered and which ones won't. Let's bring you the specific rule that covers why auto racing is not. IOC Rule 54.4.2. It prohibits any form of mechanical propulsion for the competitor. It's a basic explanation, but it does, as things often do when it comes to international bodies, listening to all of the national ones. Turns out the IOC has, here's this open door or open window. The IOC has recognized the FIA, you know, the governing body over Formula One, Formula E, and World Endurance Challenge racing and stuff like that. They have recognized the FIA as an international sporting body, and that is generally the first step that would be allowed when it comes to allowing any sport to become considered, at least, for a future Olympiad. There's also an interesting bit of history, because despite the rule, in the 1900 games, held like they are this year in Paris, France, where only 28 countries and about 1,000 competitors from around the world showed up, things were a little more lax rules-wise. Think about it this way. For the first few Olympics, one of the gold medal sports was tug of war. Just saying. Motorsports actually did take place in the 1900 Olympics. It was kind of oddly based more on the manufacturer than the drivers specifically. Several European makers were involved. If you know cars, you'll know two of them, Renault and Peugeot. They're obviously still around. Several others long since gone out of existence. You got names like Delahaye, Serpollet. There were several others. They've all disappeared. Almost all the drivers were French, but there was an American in there. His name, Gilbert Brown. He won gold in, of all things, the fire truck category. I said it was strange. Welcome to 1900. Categories for racing. Take a listen. Here are the categories for auto racing in the 1900 Olympics. Taxis, vans, small trucks. This is based on weight. Then you got heavier trucks. 2-seater vehicles, 6-seater vehicles, 7-seater vehicles, fire trucks, and then there was a more general category that included passenger cars, large and small. Again, only the manufacturers of the cars were listed as the medal winners, but that was the one and only time that motorsports has been involved in the Olympics. The IOC insists that this is not the fault of drivers from anywhere around the world. The IOC admits drivers are indeed athletic and they are talented, which are two of the things that IOC is looking for when it comes to including a sport in the Olympics, right? But they also note that the heavy lifting, speed, comes from the race cars. And that propulsion, other than the gas pedal, is not reliant on the driver's physical skill as a general rule. To repeat, however, the IOC has recognized the FIA. So it does open that door or window or whatever. The FIA's adoption of the Olympic Charter does seem to make it a possibility, but because of the current IOC leadership, that seems less than likely. Most recently, a statement from the IOC referred back to the rule that the Olympics are a, quote, competition for athletes, not equipment, unquote. I wouldn't go holding your breath, but who knows? Maybe if we can get some new leadership in there with a little bit more open mind, maybe. But considering the fact that we are now through the 2034 Winter Olympics as far as cities granted and the 2032, I believe, Summer Olympics as far as what cities are hosting, and they have made no word on auto racing even being an exhibition event, while I would never say never, again, don't go holding your breath.
Who wouldn't mind seeing the taxis, the Honda Odyssey vans, the Ford Rangers, the Dodge Ram 3500s, Corvettes, the Dodge Durangos, the Toyota Highlanders, the fire trucks, the Ford Fusions, and the Toyota Prius divisions.
Yeah.
That's reading off from what it was listed for the categories earlier. But
the thing about this is, though, we have...
Here's how you do this.
I mean, we have the ability to do this. I mean, think about it. Annually, we have the ROC, the Race of Champions.
It's the ROC, yes. But
not IROC, but I mean, you could do it kind of that way too, because IROC and the Race of Champions, they're kind of based upon the same idea of taking identically prepared cars and putting talented drivers from all around the world in them,
and from different fortes of motorsports.
Yeah, exactly.
But here's how you would have to do this. You couldn't do it at the winter games. It has to be straight summer games.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
If you go say something was to change in 2028 LA Olympics. Hey, we're introducing motorsports. Guess what? Long Beach, you're back in session.
Sure. Or worst comes to worst, maybe by then NASCAR's got their stuff together with California and they finish Auto Club Speedway.
I'm
just saying maybe. I'm just throwing it out there.
From the sense of the worldwide scope.
Sure.
When you think of the worldwide scope, the one form that brings the worldwide scope together on one level.
Street racing
or road course racing.
Yeah. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. But I would also add the fact that, again, if Auto Club were finished and you wanted to make it more than just a one race event, you could maybe alter it up by going to Auto Club and or a couple of other places that are out there.
Heck, the way photos I've seen, the way we're just going around Auto Club now, you're not even going to have enough room to park 20 Yugo cars out
That's
there.
True. Yeah.
But
or maybe you go from where they run the Long Beach Grand Prix, maybe you go to Thermal Club, which is not that far away.
You could go Thermal Club or you could go to Long Beach, but I would see Long Beach being before Thermal Club.
I'm saying maybe you go to both just to kind of change things up and have more than one race as being part of this whole event.
You could have more than one. I don't dispute that. But take it to where each country, this is what each country brings 2 racers.
Sure.
You put it in the format to where you have it like a Pro-Am division. You have, this is not me trying to set myself up on the top of the podium here or nothing, but this is a sole example here.
Tempting, ain't it?
It's a sole example here. You could take from Germany, Mick Schumacher and whoever.
Yeah.
France.
Maybe Sebastian Vettel.
Maybe Sebastian Vettel. All right. If you go Pro-Am style, it could be somebody like me paired with Colton Herta, U.S. nationality. Colton Herta.
Maybe Kyle Larson. Yeah, exactly.
Kyle Busch. Logan Sargent, considering he's on the world stage.
Sure. Joseph Newgarden.
Newgarden.
Yeah.
Something like that. In a Pro-Am division, you have your amateurs run one race, you have your pros run the other race, and however it stacks up, if the amateur outruns the pro in said preliminary events for your medal race, your amateurs may be lining up with the pros.
Yeah, could happen.
Don't think for one second I wouldn't strap in an Indycar and go and
sure, or whatever kind of car they decided to put out
or whatever car they used.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how this would manifest itself. But again,
I forgot one Los Angeles area. I forgot about Irwindale.
That's true. So
Thanks,
we'll see. When we come back, we'll continue talking about some things. NASCAR signed a long-term deal. This is a multi-year deal that has more than just overall sponsorship involved. And ESPN has come out with a list. It seems a little preliminary, but we're going to go down it anyway because it involves racing. Of the top 100 athletes of the century so far?
We will. go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Let's talk about this. NASCAR signing a deal with Straight Talk Wireless. This is a multi-year deal. It's going to see the company become NASCAR's official wireless partner and an official partner of Homestead Miami Speedway. This brings an entitled sponsorship, by the way, to the October 27th race there when they get into the playoffs. In addition, Straight Talk's going to present NASCAR on Tour. What is this? Well, it'll take place at selected Walmart locations near tracks, including our own Talladega, August 21st to October 27th. Keep in mind, this is at NASCAR-owned facilities, not including SMI tracks. But Charlotte is involved because, let's face it, it's NASCAR's backyard where most of the teams are. Expect Darlington to be involved, Richmond to be involved, Talladega, Homestead, Miami, Daytona, but don't count on places like Phoenix, for example, or Texas Motor Speedway to be included in this. Involved in NASCAR on Tour, racing experiences, giveaways, driver meet and greets, and autograph sessions, exclusive offers, and a whole lot more, including deals for new customers who sign up for Straight Talk service, which is only available at Walmart. How convenient. Mm-hmm. And then there was something that I looked at mainly out of curiosity when I saw it earlier this week. ESPN came out with a list that seems all too preliminary because it's only 2024. I mean, it's not like we're even a quarter of the way through the century yet, right? But ESPN has decided that apparently it was a slow news week and came out with the top athletes of the 2000s so far.
Let's put this disclaimer out there, people. The image you're looking at on YouTube Live right now is not a teaser of what may be to come, even though it looks great and it could be.
Although it should be.
It should be.
Absolutely. We'd like to see it. Let's put it that way. I'm not really all this surprised at who came out on top. Multiple-time gold-winning Olympic swimmer Michael Phelps. Hard to argue that. I mean, the guy was absolutely dominant in the pool. Serena Williams, arguably the best women's tennis player of all time, comes in at number 2. Okay, I can deal with that. Past that, we're not worried about it until we get to auto racing. It's not ignored, but it's almost all but. Lewis Hamilton and his 7 F1 titles are on the list. 105 race wins, 200 podiums. They're listed as the reason to rank him 19th. Okay. The man Lewis Hamilton bettered for those marks, Michael Schumacher. He's listed at number 29, despite the fact that a lot of his success, not discounting any of his success in the 2000s, by the way, but he had a lot of success in the 1990s, so it's kind of split. Think about it. So after number 29, how much more? How about you got to drop down to number 47 before you get the next person in racing, and you'd probably be able to figure it out if you thought about it for even a short period of time. 7-time Cup Series champion Jimmy Johnson is listed there. After that, no more racers. Only 3 got listed in the top 100 of the 2000s. The listings from the Sports Network also looked at the top 25 athletes they feel have a good chance of making the next top 100 list. That included one racer, Kimi Antonelli, who's set to come in and take over for Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes starting next year. Out of all the people, they only came up with one. I'm not so certain I agree with that totally, but hey, it's not my list, right?
I don't.
Then there's the organization that Matt and I belong to, the National Motorsports Press Association. They announced their 2024 Hall of Fame class, the 4 of them. And I did vote on this, and I'm pretty sure you did too. Parnelli Jones won races in Indycar, NASCAR, USAC Sprint, midget cars, and off-road trucks. Hard to believe that he actually had not been in there before with that kind of a resume.
Hard to believe for sure.
Also going in, 5-time winner in top-level NHRA competition turned championship-winning owner Don Schumacher, who as an owner claimed 19 titles in 3 categories, 11 in Top Fuel, 7 in Funny Car, and 1 in Factory Stock Showdown, along with claiming 366 national event wins during his time as an owner. He goes in. Tim Brewer is going in, the 2-time championship-winning crew chief turned broadcaster who helped both Cale Yarborough and Darrell Waltrip to titles while with Junior Johnson. And finally, Lynn St. James, only one of 9 women to start an Indy 500, the first to claim the race's Rookie of the Year honor. Also helped claim class titles in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, 12 Hours of Sebring, was the first woman to top 200 miles per hour, and she pulled a top speed of 227.32 miles per hour in a run at our home track at Talladega. She was also named one of the top 100 women athletes of the century by Sports Illustrated when they look back on the 1900s. So, yeah, these are for more than deserving people who are going in to the NMPA Hall of Fame.
For sure.
All right. Oh, do we have the time? We'll make it. Let's get into Cup Series conversation here, where NASCAR's Senior VP of Competition, Elton Sawyer, has been up against the wall answering questions like he has been at the interrogation room at the local police station as to why they allowed the restart that we talked about at the Brickyard 400, and then why they did not put out a caution flag on Ryan Preece's situation at the end of the Brickyard 400. Let's deal with first things first, and you've got a little more information about this, but let's get to it. When it came to the restart, Elton Sawyer noted the rule book. When a car has to get out of line, Brad Keselowski, those behind do get to move up. Says that's been in the rule book for many years now. And that does kind of disarm Ryan Blaney's initial thought that they needed to re-rack everything.
Yes, because if let's decipher it this way. Coming to a restart.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if it's the last restart, overtime restart.
Could be the start of the race.
It could be the start of the race.
Yeah.
We're going to use the example of a late race restart.
Sure.
Let's call it that. Steve's leading. I'm in second. All right. Steve chooses the outside. I'm taking the bottom. I will be darned if I'm going to give up a front row opportunity and take a line, get in line behind him.
Sure.
And give up a spot.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the inside row.
But I'm still the control car because I was the leader.
Steve is the control car. All right. Let's say he either a mechanical failure, runs out of fuel. That's going to be the two things that cause this right here, because the odds are you getting wrecked on a slow roll restart is not very good before you get to the restart zone.
No.
All right.
It's unlikely.
He falls to the outside, gets way up against the wall. The row moves up.
Yep.
Okay. All right. That immediately makes me the control car because by default, I go to position 1.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the control car.
Yeah.
That doesn't make if Chi-Town Mark is in the row behind Steve and he rolls up and he's on the front row, he does not go to the control car. I go to the control car. He's the outside pole. He's technically the P2 car.
Okay.
So I've got control of the start. So I dictate where we fire at.
So when we put this into the position of Brad Keselowski jumping off, following the pace car onto pit road as they're approaching the green flag for the final restart, as it turned out of the Brickyard 400.
Sure.
Kyle Larson starts to move up. He's on the inside row. He started third.
Yep.
He moves up. And from the naked eye, it does kind of look like Kyle Larson does jump the restart, doesn't it?
It does, but here's where, class, we go into hard session.
SMT data time, boys and girls.
If you've never seen an SMT data chart, now you're about to, because I have found one that details this late race restart that is now coming up onto CRN Live on YouTube.
Yeah. This is something that if you are listening, by the way, on the radio, we're not trying to ignore you. We're just saying, we have the opportunity to show this. Whenever you get to the point where you can watch this on YouTube, please do.
I have seen this in live action on a live computer, actually in real time last year when I went to Mid-Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
But this image was shared via Twitter. So via Brett Griffin's Twitter account. All right. When you look, the orange numbers that are on this page are Kyle Larson's car.
Okay.
Your first set of numbers is your miles per hour that you are rolling. Your second set of numbers is your engine RPMs that you're turning. But here's the big kicker right here. Your third set of numbers, that is what gear you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Your fourth set of numbers, that is your throttle percentage.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Kyle Larson is orange. Ryan Blaney's green.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The big two numbers here is not the middle ones. It's your top number and your bottom number.
Yeah.
Throttle percentage on the bottom, 29%,
30%.
30%.
Yeah.
They're on at the same time.
Yep.
62.5 miles per hour, 61.9.
Almost, for all intents and purposes, dead even.
That is dead even. Look at the lines right there. You see where the little orange line peaks up at the top? That's where he surged to get up beside Ryan Blaney. But look, the orange and green lines on the top stay mirrored each other.
Yep.
When it starts launching at the red line that's down the center, that's when the green flag flew.
And you want to talk about mirror images, man.
That is a dead even start, hands down. You cannot get any closer than that whatsoever, by no means.
So we're going to take Ryan Blaney's argument. And I get it. He was ticked because of what he perceived. I get it, but it deflates the whole argument.
It does deflate it.
Let's go to the part 2 of this. And this is where we'll continue into next hour because we're coming up onto it. The delayed caution call. Let's give you the details again. Ryan Preece, Chase Elliott going through turns 1 and 2, coming out of turn 2, Preece and Elliott, they're racing for position. They make contact coming off of that turn. 41 car strikes the inside wall. Preece is attempting to get the car restarted, tries to get the car rolling again. He can't. Sawyer noted that Preece kept trying to get the car moving, and that was why the race stayed green as the field went through turns 3 and 4 and down the front straight until they hit the start-finish line where they took the white flag. It wasn't until after Larson took the white flag and started into turn 1 before the yellow was shown, meaning that the race was over. Sawyer said this on Tuesday, and we're going to give you the facts, and then we'll get into our part of it coming up as we get into next hour.
Yeah, because it's going to take me a while.
Sawyer said, quote, "Our goal at every event is to finish under green. That's what our goal is going into the weekend, but there are circumstances that happen on the last lap at Indy. I'll go back to last year at Pocono, very similar situation with the same car, I might add, the 41. He continued, said, quote, "In both, we're trying to give that car every opportunity to get started, get rolling, let the race end naturally. As we came off turn 4, coming to the start-finish line to the white, 2.5-mile racetrack, so you still have a lot of racing that can happen. As the car started to get off in turn 1, you're starting to get closer to having to make a decision, and that's really our process and our mindset. It's the same as it was last year in Pocono. I believe the 41 had spun in the tunnel turn, and again, you give the drivers every opportunity to get going, but also the guys that are leading, you can't let them race through a situation where you have a car stopped on the track. That was our decision process." Now, this is a situation where not only was there damage to the car, 41 car, he had at least 2 flat tires, correct?
Rear tires, yes.
And he was low on gas, meaning getting the car restarted, questionable.
He did state that at the end of the race, when he got turned by the 9 car, he was running out of fuel. His fuel pressure was at 10.
My 2 biggest problems with this are this. Number 1, you have a car that has hit the wall and has damage. And on top of that has 2 flat tires. And when we have seen these Gen 7 cars, Cup cars, have at least 2 flat tires, we see them, for all intents and purposes, get beached. They can't move. Low-profile tires, the way that the underbody is set on these cars, they just plop down on the body. And unless you actually have momentum, which the 41 didn't, it's very, very difficult to almost impossible to get moving. On top of that, there's another factor. And Matt and I have seen this in person at more than one track that we have gone to BPA at. And you'll probably be able to guess it. But if not, we'll fill you in on this, and we'll fill you in on why we continue to look at the officiating in NASCAR and go, what in the what are you thinking or looking at? We'll get into it when we get into hour number 2 next.
Don't touch that. fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hour number 2 underway. If you missed hour 1, you missed a lot. Go back and check it out on CRN Live on YouTube. Also, we are right in the middle of talking about what happened at the end of the Brickyard 400 last weekend. We already dealt with the restart side of things. Now let's deal with this caution flag that, well, was pocketed until probably much later than it should have been. Again, Ryan Preece, Chase Elliott come off a turn 2 just after the restart. They make contact. 41 car goes spinning off to the inside, hits the wall, creates damage to the car, number 1. Number 2 has 2 flat tires, both of them on the back. Matt and I have been at Talladega and Richmond and Darlington and Homestead, Miami as PA announcers, plus we've been to several different racetracks watching NASCAR races. And we can tell you that on more than one occasion, Gen 7 car, Gen 6 car, doesn't matter. Car of tomorrow, remember that thing? Where we have seen contact between cars causes at least one car to spin. And basically, as the car makes contact with a wall, outside, inside wall, doesn't matter, makes contact with a wall, they throw the yellow flag.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They do.
Car has not come to a stop. Yellow flag is flown. NASCAR officials, more than anybody else, mind you, should know that with this Gen 7 car, as we said before the break, if one tire is flat, there's a chance you can get rolling. But if 2 or more tires have gone down on the Gen 7 car, with the low-profile cars and the way the underbody is made on these cars, that car, if it comes to a stop, will almost never get rolling again.
Sure.
On top of that, you had damage from the hitting the wall on the 41. And Ryan Preece admitted he was out of gas. But we can even eliminate the out of gas part of it.
Mm-hmm.
He had come to a complete stop with damage to his car and 2 flat tires. There's little to no chance that 41 car is ever going to get rolling again without artificial help.
Very slim.
NASCAR officials, again, this is year number 3 of dealing with this Gen 7 car. By now, they know this. So why, again, did we wait until we got around turns 3 and 4 and all the way down the front stretch back into turn 1 before we threw the yellow again?
Because they wanted to be able to say they had the white flag in the air and the race was coming to an end. That's garbage. That's absolute garbage. I said this on Wednesday. I'm going to say it again.
Thursday. Our cross flags was delayed today, and we apologize.
I was driving up and down the road on Thursday in the pouring down rain. But Indianapolis, there were 2 spotters used. One spotter stand was in turn 1. It was not on top of the pagoda. It was in turn 1. To where you had a line of sight from the exit of turn 4 all the way through turn 1, through the short chute, through the exit of turn 2. Your secondary spotter is in turn 3. You have the exit of turn 2 down the backstretch, entry to 3, short chute, entry and exit of 4 until you lose them on the front stretch. Okay. When it's at a situation like that, road courses are different. But when it's a situation like that, you have a NASCAR official in both spotter stands. Mm-hmm. So you cannot tell me that you were just depending on the television. That's garbage. You've got officials all the way around the racetrack that can say, let's say my number is 212. 212 the tower. We got a car stopped on the backstretch. Car stopped on the backstretch. In the bottom of the asphalt racing lane. Copy. What's happening?
Why no yellow?
All right, look. I said this too. Look. Kyle Larson was going to win that race. I don't think there was any stopping him. At the end of the race, he had the best car. had the freshest tires,
Had the
most
gas
fuel,
mile.
had
the
most
gas.
fuel.
Yeah, he had the gas, most importantly.
Nobody was going. He was going to win the race.
Yeah.
But when you do stupid, you know what, you fill in the blank with whatever you want to use, stuff like this, you're setting up and having to listen to your own conspiracy theories that you created. You created the mess of people fussing, complaining, and griping. Oh, why did they wait to throw the caution? They give it to Hendrick. Oh, Hendrick favored this, Hendrick favored that. Look, for the love of humanity, get Elton Sawyer away from a camera, get him away from a phone, get him away from a microphone and a radio. Because here's why. He contradicts himself. I thought Scott Miller was bad. Elton Sawyer is worse. Elton Sawyer, you've been behind a 5-point harness in a car. You know. Use that knowledge that you have from behind the seat in the steering wheel and use it to help officiate a race like it needs to be officiated.
I've said this many, many times. You've said it as well. We're just looking for consistency here. Again, we've noted the fact that a car hits a wall, and before it even stops, after slamming into the wall, they've thrown the caution flag.
We saw at Texas Ricky Stenhouse
Have
brush
consistency.
the All-Star race in 2022.
Oh, God.
Ricky Stenhouse brushed the wall.
And they threw a caution.
They threw a caution for what? Paint flakes?
Have consistency.
I mean,
that's what we're asking. Have the consistency to make the call the same way every time.
there should be, it may be, but the way they do the stuff, it doesn't look like it is. So we're going to say it like this. There needs to be, if it's a solo car incident, where their car hits the wall, car spins, whatnot, or has a problem and it comes to a stop, or it's going so slow that you know it's not going to get back to pit road, you have a 4-second window. If that car has not moved within 4 seconds, caution.
Yep.
You stop the field, you get this car taken care of, whether you push it back, you have to tow it back, pull it back, whatever. 4 seconds. Because, okay, we're coming to the white flag. Let's say they leave it green. They come off a 2 and there's a huge pile up. Look who's a sitting duck.
Yeah.
41 car. Like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
You're in more trouble than you thought.
You're creating your own problems with the inconsistency. Therefore, you're creating all of these conspiracy theories that make me want to puke that I read on social media.
Oh, I'll give you another conspiracy theory. What happened last Sunday?
Well, which part?
Yeah. Big news. Big news. Caused the first part of the Brickyard 400 to be moved over to the USA Network.
Oh,
Hang on.
That. Yeah.
Hang on.
That.
Why in the world, when you're down to the point where you're going to come to a restart at the Brickyard 400, again, crown jewel race, why would you then allow your local affiliates to go to their local news?
We got to go.
Was NBC strong-arming NASCAR a little bit to get the race done?
We've got to go to local news. How many times have I seen local news be delayed or pushed back by other sporting events?
Yeah.
Baseball, football that goes into overtime. Now we're at the conclusion of, let's say it's Fox, at the conclusion of, Big Ten Saturday with Iowa and Ohio State. And it'd be 9:40 p.m. and the news was scheduled to start at 9. Or it'd be a Pac-10 game or a Pac-12, God rest your soul.
Yeah.
Be on the West
days.
Coast, and you start at 10 o'clock.
Or later.
And they do the 10 o'clock the late night news after the game completes.
Happens all the time.
But you take a 3-lap shootout or a lap and a half.
Shove it over to USA.
And shove it to USA. And you've got the Brickyard 400 back on the oval for the first time in 3 years. Stupid.
Agreed. Elton Sawyer added on Tuesday during his appearance on Sirius XM satellite radio that they may have a way to fix this situation of allowing the cars to get back to pit road under their own power. He said, quote, "We're hoping that the fix will be this quick connect system. It'll be connected or installed, that when a track service worker gets to a stalled out car, they can basically take an air hose, if you will, pump up the rear tire, which will lift up and then give the driver the ability to drive back to pit road. Then when they get to pit road, there's a valve where they just hit the valve, the rear of the car will go back down." Effectively, what they're talking about is adjustable air shocks that are controlled by NASCAR personnel, not by the teams.
Okay. This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, because you're going to have somebody.
They'll figure out a way to gain
They're
this.
going to figure out a way to gain it, because all you got to do is, okay, adjustable air shocks. Somebody's going to find a way to feed a little bit of air to that shock or that valve or whatever you want to use to lift the car up, which got to be the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. Here's a concept. Scrap the whole car, go back to what was working.
Mm-hmm.
Go back to the tire setup that wasn't low profile, that if you had a flat tire, you could actually drive the car back to pit road.
You know, the ones that had the inner liner in it.
Yeah, those that had the inner liner in it, not ones that's riding on an aluminum rim and you're setting the aluminum rim setting literally that high off of the asphalt. All right. Somebody's going to beat the system, because if you throw some air, get some air in that adjustable shock, whichever side of the car it's on, if it's maybe on the whole rear, let's say you find a way to rig the system, get a little bit of air in there, get that spoiler up in the air, a little bit more drag, downforce. Guess what? You're going to pull away.
Mm-hmm. As you suddenly are able to corner better.
Sheesh.
On to some other lighter news here.
Tell me about it.
Kyle Larson obviously claiming the win in the Brickyard 400. That's his second run at the facility this year. And afterward, the obvious question about him going and doing the double again came up post-race. And Larson, I'll give him credit. He patiently answered those questions. He said this, quote, "Obviously, I'd love to do it." You might remember us talking about this all 2 months ago when Larson was lambasted by many for sticking with the Indy 500 despite the 4-hour rain delay, instead of heading down to Charlotte, maybe to be there in time for the Coca-Cola 600 start. Anyway, Hendrick Motorsports, Arrow McLaren Racing, they signed a 2-year deal. We know that. We talked about that way back when. Rick Hendrick only said of another chance at the double in 2025, quote, "not yet," unquote. Larson elaborated on that a little more last Sunday, said, quote, "We've definitely been talking about it. Obviously, I'd love to do it. I think everybody knows that I would love to do it, because in my mind, I didn't get to do it this year. I hope that the pieces can fall into place and we can hopefully get things put together and announce something and be excited about doing the double next year." I find it hard to believe Rick Hendrick's going to wait all that long.
Yeah, he's not.
I don't think so.
He's not.
So,
truth be known, it's already done.
Probably.
They're just waiting just to say something,
Yeah.
try to leave a little bit of suspense, because
and there may be a sponsorship announcement
2-year
other than
deal.
Hendrick cars.
maybe,
Maybe another sponsorship deal.
because it was a 2-year deal.
Yeah. Larson's set to have Kyle Larson to deal with again when it comes to Cup Series racing next year. Saturday before the Xfinity Series race, where Custer and his Stewart-Haas Racing teammate Riley Herbst claimed second and first, respectively, Custer officially announced that he would be returning to the Cup Series 2025. He'll take over the number 41 Ford Mustang at what is to be the soon-to-be Haas factory team. He said of it, quote, "To get an opportunity back in Cup was the biggest goal. To have this opportunity to get to drive for Haas factory team next year is huge for me. I think we can do some really special things with the resources we have as a team. We're ready to get to work, get some great people. I think we'll be able to compete with the best." This is the latest step in the reorganization of what is soon to be formerly Stewart-Haas Racing. It was announced, obviously, back in May. Come to understand, this is Tony Stewart's NASCAR exit, because Gene Haas is set to continue on as a 3-car operation, at least for now, officially announced as the single Cup Series entry, which we now know will be the 41 car, and the 2 Xfinity Series cars. Plus, you got Cole's father, Joe Custer, soon to become Haas factory team president. He said that he has also made an offer to Riley Herbst for 2025, has worked up a technical alliance with, more importantly, RFK Racing, adding that, quote, "Along with Ford as a partner, we're lacking no resource going into next year." The Riley Herbst situation is ongoing. But the offer obviously would be for Riley to stick with an Xfinity Series car unless, and I'm not necessarily discounting this possibility,
Right.
that right now, as of where we stand right now, only one of the SHR four charters have been sold to Front Row. They still got 3. Now, part of that's because some of the teams are waiting for the charter agreement to be finalized.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not necessarily going to rule out the possibility that Gene Haas might just decide I'm going to take one more of those off the market and have a 2-car Cup team. Because all he's got to do is look over at JTG Dougherty Racing and their very much inconsistent performance over the course of time. Yes, they've gone up and they've won races here and there, but they've also been very, very much down and out as a single-car Cup Series operation.
Because they don't have a true hard alliance with nobody.
But either way, it's very difficult.
True.
As a single-car operation. True. Okay? Look at Wood Brothers. Wood Brothers has an alliance with Team Penske. The 2, the 12, and the 22 are all in the playoffs. Where's the 21? Not in the playoffs. Not even sniffing it, truth be told. So, yeah, I'm still not counting out the possibility that Gene Haas might keep one more of those charters and make it a 2-car operation.
Might.
And Riley Herbst would certainly fit the bill there because Riley and Cole work together well in the Xfinity Series competition.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, signing the alliance with RFK Racing, which does pretty much confirm that they're going to be in the Ford camp, that's a good move.
Yep.
I will give him that.
Oh, very good.
And we'll talk more about the Xfinity Series operation coming up in just a little bit because there's more information there too. So that bit of silly season, certainly not unexpected. I think we all figured Cole was going to be the guy. It officially means Ryan Preece is a free agent going into 2025 as well. Then Spire Motorsports threw us all one massive drop off the table curveball on Thursday. We'll detail that when we come back.
Stay right.
Welcome back in real quick before we go on with the news here. Formula One in qualifying for the Belgian Grand Prix Spa-Francorchamps is where they're located, and Q1 should be just about done, we think?
Q1 is done. The bottom 5 eliminated is Hulkenberg, Magnussen, Sonoda, Sargent, and Zhou Guanyu.
Ooh, not a good start for the folks over at Haas F1.
Oscar Piastri, quickest in P1.
Oh, boy, McLaren is just coming up, man. Thursday, NASCAR silly season got thrown a major curveball. Corey LaJoie got in touch with media right about lunchtime, informed everybody he was leaving the number 7 Spire Motorsports Chevrolet at the end of the 2024 year. Now, think about this. This comes only a couple of weeks after the team had hired veteran and championship-winning crew chief Rodney Childers away from Stewart-Haas Racing, right? In their press release, in their statement, they said they were teaming Childers with LaJoie. Well, that's out the window. LaJoie, now 32, has been with Spire since 2021, posted 4 top 5, 6 top 10 finishes over that time. Doesn't sound all that impressive, but think about what Spire had been doing before that. Nothing. He'd been the leader in the Spire clubhouse over that time. Spire's only comment was to thank LaJoie for his time with the organization, state that they would do all they could to help him land a new ride for 2025 and beyond, and added they'll announce a driver for the 7 car at a later date. This obviously opens things up for multiple conspiracy theories. Like, what in the world went south in the relationship between Spire Motorsports and Corey LaJoie in just the last, week and a half, 2 weeks?
This is simple. If you go and hire somebody of the caliber of Rodney Childers, to which you now have Rodney, for 2025, it looks like you're going to have Rodney Childers, Luke Lambert, and it looks like you'll have Travis Peterson to follow Michael McDowell to the 71.
That's a nice trio of crew chiefs.
Looks like. But if Stephen Doran stays on the 71, guess where Stephen Doran come from? Stewart-Haas, underneath Rodney Childers.
Still not bad.
Spire's not playing around.
No.
Here's the deal that's with Spire. They've got the equipment and they've got the stuff to get it done. They just don't have the puzzle pieces of the 2 feet and 2 arms and physical bodies to get it done. Guess what they're doing now? They're putting those pieces into place. You see it working and you see it unfolding to the positive in trucks. Carson Hocevar, of all people, is your flag bearer at Spire right now.
He's been out-qualifying and generally outperforming in the race, Corey LaJoie, almost every race.
Zane Smith is climbing.
He's still got a learning curve, though. His learning curve is slower than what Carson Hocevar. But, yeah, I agree.
But
he's picking it up.
He's picked it up.
I would agree with that.
He's picking it up.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. But you have Corey LaJoie that really the only place you can legitimately count him in to be a remote factor, let's call it that, are super speedways. That's it. If you go out and you get Rodney Childers, you better have somebody in the seat that knows what the heck they're doing. Because look who Rodney Childers has been wrenching for. David Rudiman, Mark Martin, Brian Vickers, Kevin Harvick, Josh Berry, and a few others.
Not a bad resume.
Josh Berry has gotten better week after week.
Yeah.
Save from a wreck that's not of his causing or a mechanical failure. Josh Berry's improved every week. Okay.
A lot of that has to do with Rodney Childers, let's face it.
Yeah. You better have somebody in the seat that knows what the
bleep
fill in the blank you doing or they're doing, because I don't think he would have came over there if he didn't already know he was going to have somebody of a little bit higher caliber. Okay, you're at Cup, you've got a caliber to some degree, but you can't have a crew chief, and this happens across multiple series. You cannot have a crew chief that is outperforming the driver.
Not for long.
It is rampant across trucks.
Yeah.
You've got it in Xfinity as well.
Sure. But it's just to be somewhat expected. I mean, these are ladder divisions.
True.
Cup Series is top of the top.
Cup, you better have your driver that can tell your crew chief exactly what he needs in the car, and he could throw that change in that car in an 8 or 9 second pit stop.
Yeah. And
don't let it surprise you if Spire gets who I've heard they're going to go after in a massive way.
Yeah. Let's just put it this way. Based upon what we know from last year when they bought out Kyle Busch Motorsports for 25 million?
25 million.
And then bought a charter from Live Fast Motorsports for a reported $40 million.
BJ McLeod sitting on a beach somewhere.
Spire Motorsports, they're not hurting for money.
No, they're not. Because there are some that a lot of people don't know. There are some solid partners that have very, very, very large checkbooks to play with, people.
Yep.
Okay? Because you think there's one common denominator, and I'm going to say this one word. It's a compound word. There's a common denominator that's between one series and another that unites this group together. Gainbridge. Think about it.
We'll leave it at that.
Do your study. Do your homework. We will do follow-up with Cliff Notes next week, class. Because this silent partner and this sponsor, to my understanding of what I've been already told, it's a blank check.
Mm-hmm. But there's a buyout and there's some contractual stuff, so it might take a little while for this announcement to come out. But if it does,
it's going to get rowdy.
It'd be huge. Fox Sports reporter Bob Pockris reported yesterday Legacy Motor Club has decided to jettison basically the entire crew of the part-time number 84 entry up to and including crew chief Jason Burdett. Burdett left his gig at Junior Motorsports to join the organization to be the crew chief for Jimmy Johnson and the 84 car.
I bet he's kicking himself.
Johnson, part-time owner of the organization, says that he does still plan to run the full slate of 9 races this year, 3 of which are still left. He wouldn't comment further on the move. So there's another pretty talented name that's now sitting out there waiting for somebody to snap him up.
How are you going to run your races if you
don't have a crew
with your crew and your crew chief?
Yeah, good luck with that.
Stupid.
Good luck with it. The return of the Brickyard 400 turned out to be pretty popular amongst the fans who seem to think that it's only natural NASCAR needs to be on the iconic rectangular-shaped track. And as such, PPG Paints, the longtime partner of the Penske organization, announced a multi-year deal to be the title sponsor of the Brickyard 400. It is officially entitled the Brickyard 400 presented by PPG. In addition, the deal keeps them as the official paint and finishing supplier of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. They had signed a 1-year deal for this, the 30th anniversary of the race. Think about that. They first came to IMS in 1994. Mm-hmm. But now in a multi-year deal, they are hoping and wanting it to be on the 2.5-mile rectangle for several years to come. And I would love it to stay that way, too.
Sure.
The NFL, considering a move to 18 games in a regular season. Why would we mention that on a racing show? Because it would affect the start of the NASCAR season. That's why. Cup Series generally runs the Busch Light Clash the weekend before the Super Bowl. Then they kick off the season officially with the Daytona 500 the week after that same game. If the NFL moves to an 18-game regular season slate, it would add a week to the current schedule because they're talking about keeping the same 3-game preseason schedule, not eliminating one of those. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell said earlier this year he would like to see the regular season at 18 games, not eliminating preseason games, and could see the Super Bowl being played on President's Day weekend. You know, the weekend that the Daytona 500 has been running on the past few years. Negotiations with the Players Association haven't started yet, so I'm not expecting it necessarily to happen this season. They've already pretty much got it set, but for next year, maybe. We'll find out. Mm-hmm. To the aforementioned Formula One, where points leader Max Verstappen going to be tested this weekend, set to qualify, and then, considering he will be on his 5th power unit for the year, slide back 10 starting spots before they take the green for Sunday's race. Verstappen likes Spa. He's won this race the past 2 years, but with Red Bull, while leading both the driver and the Constructors' Cup standings as they are not as dominant as they were in 23 and 2022. So this might be a chance for young Oscar Piastri to make up points. You mentioned it. Oscar Piastri was fastest in Q1. Where was Mr. Verstappen in Q1?
Third.
Okay. Which would mean if that were to stand, he would start 13th. We'll find out.
Yep.
Let's get back to that McLaren situation where Oscar Piastri was able to claim his first win in F1 after the team ordered then race leader and teammate Lando Norris to give Oscar the lead back. I say back because Piastri was leading before the team went through that round of pit stops. Was there concern about the team when it comes to this? Team boss Andrea Stella said he was never in doubt. Quote, I know Lando enough. I know enough and well enough that inside Lando we have the race driver and the team player. I would be extremely concerned if Lando had not demonstrated I am a race driver here because that's the impulse you need to fight hard. He demonstrated the spirit of a race driver. Some teams do note they have a clear number one driver. Stella said that's not the case at McLaren. Quote, I think when you have Oscar and Lando, we're in a lucky enough position that we don't need to decide who's a number one driver. We race fair, and if one of the two drivers gains on merit as a result, this is protected. Adding, quote, maybe if it's the last couple of races and there's a strong championship interest for one of the two drivers, we might revise this. But what I'm expecting is that it's the other driver coming to me saying, if you need my help, I'm available. I think if you build this ethos, you manage a race like today in a fair way, and I think we have done. No, you just contradicted yourself, Andrea.
That you did.
Because here's the deal. Whatever happened, mistake on pit road by the pit crew, the driver, whatever, or just natural happenstance, Oscar Piastri watches Lando Norris go into the pits, then he gets called, and when they come out, Lando Norris suddenly has the lead over Oscar Piastri. If Oscar can pass Lando, then Lando should, yes, let him do it cleanly on the track. But otherwise, let them race.
Mom, he took my Skittles. I want it back. Give me a break. Do it on the track.
Yeah. The one time I might state, I take that back, there's two times, that I might say we need to allow driver A to pass driver B.
Never with me.
And the only reason I would say this is if it means we could win the Constructors' Cup or the driver's titles on the line. That's it.
I would say it'd be more the driver's title because if you got both cars running ahead, both cars are nose to tail, and you're ahead of the other car that you're going in the Constructors' Cup, it isn't going to matter.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say it's going to be driver's title or the other.
Yeah. But that's it.
It would have to be a razor-thin margin by like 1 to 2 points.
Yeah. I mean, putting Matt and myself on the same team, and we'll say that, like he is right now, Max Verstappen's the leader. Matt is battling Max Verstappen for the points lead, but somehow I'm in the race and I'm ahead of Matt. I'm not necessarily going to blame my team principal for coming on and saying, hey, you need to let Matt go ahead of you because he's in the points battle. You're not really. He is. This gives him a better chance to win the championship. Or especially if it's the last race of the year. You're leading. You know, I'm leading in this case. Matt's sitting behind me, and he's trailing Max Verstappen by a point or 5 points even. And him moving around me and claiming the lead is going to make the difference. Then, yes, I should be the team player and do that. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
At this point in time of the year where we haven't even hit the August break, no. Not into the team order thing at all.
Nope.
Again, if you can do it on the track, if Matt can catch me on the track, I should allow him to pass me cleanly because I understand he's the faster car. But if he can't, why artificially do it? Doesn't make sense.
It's F1. That's the problem.
Yeah. Weird. Speaking of odd, we haven't heard this name in a while. Mattia Binotto is back. Who? Yeah, Mattia Binotto. He was last in Formula One as the team principal over at Ferrari, but you might remember he left that position at the team at the end of the 2022 season, noting a drop-off in performance over that year, and, well, he just kind of fell on the sword. It ended a run that he had been with Ferrari. Binotto began back with them back in 1995 and lasted until 2022. Now, after 18 months out of the sport, He will return effective August 1st with Audi as they prepare to join Formula One in 2026. You were talking about Spire Motorsports doing the setup to make sure that they got all the pieces in place.
Yep.
Audi is doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
He comes in with the title of Chief Operating Officer and Chief Technical Officer for Sauber. He'll replace Andreas Seidel. It's part of a major shakeup in the Sauber organization, which is the only scoreless operation in F1 this year. Current chairman of Sauber Motorsport, Oliver Hoffmann, he will also be out. He'll be replaced by Audi Auto Group CEO Gernot Dollner. It's very German name. This means that another F1 veteran now, Seidel, goes to the sidelines. For now, anyway. Seidel joined Sauber at the end of the 2022 season, took the place of Fred Vasseur. Vasseur had left the team, Sauber, to take over at Ferrari to replace Binotto. You see where this is all kind of circling around?
Mm-hmm.
Seidel's departure from McLaren allowed Andrea Stella to take over there, and McLaren, as we have noted, is doing just fine. Thank you very much. Seidel, though, I don't think will be on the sidelines for too long. Somebody will snap him up.
Yep. Somebody will. It's just a matter of who.
So the question becomes, especially for the incoming driver, Nico Hülkenberg, did this change his mind? When he arrived in Belgium for this week's race, he said, quote, "That was obviously a bit of a wave, bit of a shock, but now obviously it's back to business, and I still look forward to joining that project and to make it a successful story with or without the fact that, two people were closely involved in signing me. They're not there anymore. Of course, maybe it's a bit sad, but I'm more interested about the project as a whole, joining Formula One with Audi and making it a successful story." When he was asked if the team had talked to him about making those changes, apparently not. He said, well, quote, "Of course, they were influential, but these were two guys that we did the deal with. So it's kind of an unexpected change, but I was informed the day of the announcement about the group's decision by Gernot Dollner himself. It is the group's decision that they want to make this change going forward. I think big projects like this, you have in the management, the people that are in the big pillars of such project, they just never rely on one or two people. In Formula One, everyone is kind of changeable. In terms of Mattia, I know him, obviously, from the past, from the paddock, but I've never worked with him. That is set to change in a few months. Yeah, it is. For better or worse. We'll find out. And that'll lead us to a nice little segue into moving into Haas F1, because that's who we're going to talk about next. We're already up against the final break of this show.
Yep.
Which means we're going to be busting our tails to try and get all the news in, which I think we got a fairly good chance of doing. Stick around. We'll take this final break. We'll come back. We'll continue to talk silly season because it affects Formula One, the Xfinity Series, and Formula E. Final segment of today's show, talking Formula One here. They're in Q2 over there, right?
Yep, Q2 has just ended.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and talk about that real quick then.
Let me get there in commercial break.
Okay.
Q2 eliminated Albon, Gasly, Ricciardo, Bottas, and Stroll.
Well, I can't say there's a big surprise in any of those.
Well, Albon got knocked out by 0.003 of a second.
Okay. So round 2, who was the top of the chart?
Verstappen.
All right, then. We'll keep an eye on it. Probably not going to be done by the time we get done, but it'll be close. We'll let you know, hopefully, one more update before the end of the show. Meantime, Haas F1, we've been hearing this rumor the last couple of weeks. It became official on Thursday as the teams arrived in Belgium for this weekend's race. Haas F1 came to terms with Esteban Ocon on a new multi-year deal. Ocon set to pair with Oliver Behrman for the second all-new driver lineup for the team in 5 years. Ocon announced earlier this year that he was going to be departing the Alpine operation at the end of the year anyway, and immediately there became questions about where he might go. He does have a win under his belt. He won in the Hungarian Grand Prix back in 2021 and will be the first F1 driver race winner that Haas F1 has ever employed in the 8 years that they've been in the series. Ocon said of his new team, quote, "I'm thrilled to embark on this new chapter in my F1 career, join MoneyGram Haas F1 team from the start of the 2025 season. I'll be joining a very ambitious racing team whose spirit, work ethic, and undeniable upward trajectory has really impressed me. MoneyGram Haas F1 team has exciting plans and clear targets for the future. I'm very much looking forward to working with everyone in Kannapolis, Banbury, and Maranello and being part of this project." I find it interesting that he did mention Kannapolis. Because we always heard that they were talking about renting that other shop out that has the Haas F1 logo sitting on it.
They were.
Guess we'll find out. Then there is Ocon's troubled, soon-to-be former home, Alpine. They're undergoing more than just a driver change. Before Ocon has the chance to even leave the team, team principal Bruno Famin is abdicating his title. The team is apparently going officially to end their F1 engine operation. It means that while Alpine will continue as a team, they're going to become engine customers from someone else. Talks are reportedly well underway with Mercedes about being a customer to them, which is not surprising considering the fact that, yes, they are supplying both Aston Martin. I think it's Aston Martin, right? That Mercedes is supplying. They're supplying Williams and Aston Martin.
Williams, Aston Martin, McLaren, and then themselves.
Okay. Well, Aston Martin is set to go to Honda. Remember that.
Yep.
So Mercedes actually would have a slot where they could fill in if they needed to. And apparently they're talking to Alpine about that. Famin set to move into a new role with the Renault, the overseeing parent company, to oversee their other motorsports programs. A new team principal for the F1 arm set to be introduced, as they say, quote, in due course. Very European. Famin's time with the Renault program is slated to end at the end of August. Renault has to do all the required paperwork with the French government in order to shut down the engine department because, after all, they are partially owned by the French government, which means even more paperwork. McLaren, meanwhile, has announced they've got themselves a new partner. You're about to see the logo of MasterCard appear on the cars. It marks a return for the credit card brand to F1 sponsorship. The deal, said to be a multi-year deal, ends the exploration the company was said to be doing for a few years now. The deal actually begins later this year, likely after the August break. MasterCard previously had been a partner with the short-lived Lola Squad way back in 1997. F1 Commission earlier this year, you might remember us having talked about it, floated the idea of a new expanded points system. Would have paid out points to the top 12 finishers as opposed to the current system where only the top 10 are granted championship points. Following the latest meeting with the F1 Commission earlier this week, that plan has been shelved with no word on whether or not it might be revisited. After the initial proposal, the F1 Commission members noted that they looked into the positives and the negatives surrounding the plan and, quote, unanimously agreed that there would be no changes to the distribution of championship points, unquote.
Interesting.
The commission noted that they wanted to see how the new regulations for 2026 would change and affect things. Okay, whatever gets you by.
Alrighty.
Lewis Hamilton continues to rewrite F1 record books. His third-place finish last weekend in Hungary marked his 200th podium finish in the series. He's the first driver to ever claim that many finishes in the top three. He's in second place. Michael Schumacher. Yeah, we're all shocked by that, aren't we? So no one is at this time really prepared to challenge him on that number. While the real-life F1 is acting like a little kid who took his ball and went home instead of playing with the new kid, if you want to add your own version of Andretti Global or any other team that you could name, you can. In the new Frontiers game release of the game F1 Manager. This is year 3 of the game series, and according to the reviews, the game plays immediately familiar if you have already played either of the previous 2 versions. But this year, the game finally allows the player to create their own team. You can choose from drivers that are already in F1 or develop your own, plus set up the front office staff, the engineering department of the team, choose the paint scheme or livery in F1 terms.
Livery.
Helmet design and a whole lot more. F1 Manager 2024 available now for PC, PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox Series SX, and Xbox One, and for the first time ever, available on Nintendo Switch. Just for the giggles of it, if I were to get this game, I probably would create a team and name it Andretti Global. Because that's the kind of person I am. NASCAR, not the only one trying to explain why they kept the yellow flag in their pocket last weekend. Indycar has to do it too. During the race, Pato O'Ward spun out on his own in turn 1. And then several cars piled in. Meanwhile, IndyCar officials held on to the yellow flag before they displayed it. And by the time they had, several other cars got involved in what turned out to be, well, demolition derby, whatever you want to call it. As noted, O'Ward spun out by himself. Marcus Ericsson then hit O'Ward. Now, in IndyCar's defense, Ericsson was likely too close to a yellow to have made any difference anyway. But after that, it probably would have. The rest probably could have avoided things by a quick yellow. Pietro Fittipaldi was next. When he got into O'Ward, he actually went up over the nose and into the air. Then there was Santino Ferrucci, who also ran over the nose of O'Ward's car, scraped along the wall before coming to a stop about 100 feet past O'Ward's spin location. There was Nolan Siegel. Siegel tagged the front of O'Ward's car as well, which shot him across the track and into the right side wall before Toby Sowery came around. He was unable to avoid O'Ward. While he was able to avoid O'Ward, I should say, he could not miss Siegel. That caused damage to his front wing. Good grief. Of all the cars involved in the crash, only Sowery, who had to have his front wing replaced, was able to continue. What a mess. Reports state the caution system had been activated by IndyCar after Ericsson got into O'Ward, but it was too late for Fittipaldi or Ferrucci to react. Okay. The rest of the drivers, IndyCar had little to no explanation as to why they either did not see or did not react to the yellow flag or signs that had gone yellow around the street courts. Racer.com reports IndyCar officials are planning an investigation into the crash and what communications between race officials and teams took place at this time. You know, something NASCAR's not doing. Just saying. As noted earlier this show, the Haas factory team has begun settling their 2025 driver lineup. Here's what we know in quick review. Cole Custer is moving back up to the Cup Series. He's going to drive the 41 car, meaning the entire Cup lineup of Stewart Haas Racing is set to be turned over from this year to next. Ryan Preece is going to become a free agent. We know that the other 3 drivers have rides next year. Also, Joe Custer, president of Haas Factory Racing, said this. He's reached out to Riley Herbst about staying the organization into next season as well. Now, unless Gene Haas does indeed, as I suspect he's potentially thinking about anyway, keeps another charter and makes it a 2-car Cup Series operation, that means Riley Herbst, if he stayed at what is going from Stewart Haas Racing to Haas Factory, would go back to racing again in the Xfinity Series. And does he really want to do that? He's 25, soon to be 26. Mm-hmm. He's got a couple of wins under his belt. He's gaining more confidence. He's got a sponsor in his back pocket in Monster Energy. All of that is highly, highly attractive to several teams.
Family is not hurting for money.
No.
They're pushing as well by their business they have on the West Coast in Nevada.
And we have heard that he has been in conversation with a group that, well, certainly would be a step up. Let's just put it that way.
It would be, yes. But the way you've had your struggles for the first part of your career up until last year.
Sure.
When you picked it up, you started evolving, you won at Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
You've been fairly consistent this year.
Yeah, I
now
would say
you win
that
at
too.
Indy. Do you give yourself one more season to season?
Because let's face it, this is what you know. You're in an organization and a part of the organization that you know can win. The Xfinity Series program at SHR, you can say everything that you want about the Cup Series side of it, but the Xfinity Series has been top notch.
Agreed.
So do you go with bird in the hand versus the potential of trying to catch two in the bush and losing them all? But again, if we're hearing that the people that are knocking on his door or ringing his doorbell or whatever are the people we're talking about, I might have to go Cup.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I would too, but I would cautiously go at it to where you don't have any of those hidden clauses in your contract that if you struggle, they could just say, see ya.
Yeah.
But
we've seen that all too often.
I don't think it's going to happen.
Probably not. In addition, Custer let it be known that they have signed their technical alliance with Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing, so they're going to continue to have Ford factory support. So that's other good news. So what about the other Xfinity Series? Let's just say Riley Earp stays with the Xfinity Series operation. What do you do with the other car? How about Haley Deegan? Joe Custer says he's not counting that out as an option. Quote, the team has to win at the Xfinity Series level, so we are willing to look at all options as far as driver goes. Maybe somebody that's already in the sport, maybe somebody that's a Cup driver that comes down. If we don't win and we are not a leader at the track, then our other teammates, you know, the Siegs, etc., they're going to find it hard to believe that we can deliver the kind of data and leadership that's necessary for them. So the Xfinity Series is a different model. As for Deegan, Custer said this, quote, obviously she was with one of our technical problems, AM Racing. So that's a challenge, right? To see what the future is with her. We believe there's more in her, and we want to be a part of that, but that's for future conversations. Her time in the 15 car at AM Racing was not productive, but Custer did confirm that they have reached out to Deegan regarding 2025. You and I are really kind of thinking, however, that the lack of performance wasn't all sitting in the lap of one Haley Deegan.
You are correct, West. You are very correct. It wasn't all her.
So we'll see.
I mean, when you got Joey Logano that gets in the car, has to explain to the crew chief how this works or how that works. You got Josh Berry in there that struggled mightily at
in two
Pocono.
races.
He got wrecked at Indy.
Yeah, kind of not his fault, but still.
He didn't qualify or practice very well. Was it the driver? No.
Thinking not.
So Wade Moore, who has now been coined the new David Tepper of NASCAR, rethink your priorities, son.
Back in April, we let you know that Greg Galding, a driver who has 158 starts across the top three NASCAR National Series, got arrested in Mecklenburg County, North Carolina.
Donut boy.
I think the Charlotte area. On a misdemeanor charge of domestic violence, got released the same day. That was back in April 2nd specifically. April the 3rd, NASCAR issued an indefinite suspension to him pending the outcome of the case. Well, here's the outcome. On Thursday, the charge was dismissed. According to court documents, the paperwork said it was, quote, voluntarily dismissed, unquote. Read into that what you will. NASCAR has yet to comment, but generally when this has been the result, the sanctioning body has rescinded the suspension effective immediately. We shall see if that remains the case.
Please leave him suspended because Greg Galding is nothing but a rolling roadblock. Jeez.
We'll see. And then there's Formula E. Stoffel Van Dorn looking for a ride. Yeah, the guy who finished top 10 in the standings this year for DS Penske is leaving after 2 years with him. Former McLaren F1 driver moved to Formula E, drove for Mercedes while they were in the all-electric series, but when they left, he got hired at DS Penske. He's been with them as they have improved their performance. At this time, it's not known where he might land, but the Noah McLaren team is often mentioned, and that kind of would be a return of sorts for him. Again, this was the team that bought, this was also previously the Mercedes team, I should say, racing for them seasons 5 through 8 in Formula E. Maserati, also being talked about a little bit. As for DS Penske, word is they're talking about Max Gunther taking over Van Dorn's seat. Speaking of Gunther, he's available because he's indeed out at Maserati, suffering a subpar year. looking to change their fortunes heading into the year number 3, I should say. Gunther and Jehan Daravula are out, despite Gunther claiming 2 wins for the team, 4 podium finishes and 2 poles in 32 races for the team over 2 years. Gunther got Maserati their first open-wheel racing win since 1957. Claimed the Tokyo E-Prix win earlier this year, but it just wasn't enough. As for Daravula, despite being highly touted as the first driver from India to compete in an FIA World Championship sport in over a decade, he was only able to secure 2 top 10 finishes in what will be his 1 year with the operation. Maserati says they already know who their new driver lineup is. They will reveal it Monday. We'll have it for you next week. Speaking of this coming week, by the way, No Crossed Flags podcast. Our producer, who is the only person trained to do the podcast, Molly, is out of the country. It's a good excuse. So no cross flags this week. We will be back next Saturday with another edition of the Championship Racing Network. Real quick, what's going on in qualifying in Q3?
Q3, the clock just hit 0. Tentatively, Verstappen's on the pole, but we know he's got that penalty. So looking like Sergio Perez will be the pole sitter.
Well, there you go. And Max Verstappen slides back 10 spots from where?
First.
Oops. Starts 11th. Let's see what you can do, Max.
Check that. Sergio, Charles Leclerc.
Oh, okay. So 12th for Max Verstappen.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see what you can do, Max. You like this track. You won there the last 2 years. Good luck to you. Talk about it all next week right here on CRN. Have a great week.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.